My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. And they're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but I'd have to charge. Hello. Lately, I've been rewatching a lot of iconic teen movies, just trying to relive those days in 7th grade when I thought that this was the peak of culture. And I thought that it'd be fun to recreate some of the most memorable looks from each of these movies. But in actuality, I'm going to be giving you some of my unsolicited opinions on each film. Yes, did you think that this was a fashion video? Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, but it's actually a movie review that you never asked for. And I have also polled you lovely people to rate each of these movies out of 10. And by crunching the numbers, I will be featuring the audience score for each movie so that you can see how you compare to everybody else. Enjoy!
Why should Caesar get to stomp around like a giant while the rest of us try not to get smushed under his big feet? Brutus is just as cute as Caesar. Okay, Brutus is just as smart as Caesar. People totally like Brutus just as much as they like Caesar. And when did it become okay for one person to be the boss of everybody, huh? Because that's not what Rome is about. We should totally just stab Caesar!
Mean Girls, a classic in all senses of the word. I rewatch this one at least once a year with friends, and of course, we know all the lines. I think everybody knows how much of a hilarious and classic movie this is. It's super duper tight on the plot, wastes no time getting to the meat and potatoes, the juicy drama. And I think that the journey that the main character Katie goes through is actually a pretty relatable one. Obviously, not everybody comes up with a master plan to take down the queen bee of their school, but losing yourself in pretending to be someone that you're not, and the difficulty in facing and owning up to your mistakes is something that I think we've all been through. Plus, side note, even if there was a guy as cute as Aaron Samuels in my calc class, no way in hell am I letting my marks drop. There could be a literal Greek god sitting in front of me, and the only digits I'd be getting are from my calculator. The themes in Mean Girls are pretty up front and center. There's not that much to read into, but it is such a hilarious satire that pokes fun at the relatable character flaws that we all have. Overall, I'd give Mean Girls a solid, the limit does not exist, out of 10. And it looks like the average audience rating for Mean Girls is an 8 out of 10.
So, I won't be getting married today. My grandmother has ruled without a man at her side for quite some time, and I think she rocks at it. I believe I will be a great queen. I understand Genovia to be a land that combines the beauty of the past with all the best hope of the future.
The Princess Diaries. So I also rewatch these two movies at least once a year, and back in 4th grade I had this phase where I was obsessed with princess movies like Barbie Princess Charm School and the Princess Protection Program. So you could say when I found this movie, it was everything that I ever wanted in a piece of entertainment. Not sure if this is a popular opinion, but I actually like the second movie better than the first. The first one deals with Mia's dilemma choosing between a normal, simple, and easier life versus a life that's, extraordinary, but it's full of unknowns and challenges. The second movie explores Mia adjusting to the scrutiny and pressures of ruling a country, where she makes a lot of mistakes but eventually comes into her own and no longer needs the guidance of her grandmother. I'd say the second movie is the real coming-of-age film, but it also has Chris Pine and his fine ass and a cast of zany characters. The second film deals with the themes of breaking tradition and carving one's own path, with some political shenanigans and love triangles sprinkled throughout. Overall, I'd rate The Princess Diaries a solid 8.5 out of 10. And it looks like the average audience rating for The Princess Diaries is an 8.2 out of 10.
Everything I think and everything I do is wrong. It all boiled down to one inevitable conclusion. I was just totally clueless. Ooh, I wonder if they have that my size. What does she want with Josh anyway? He dresses funny. He listens to complaint rock. He's not even cute. In the conventional way.
Clueless! I love this movie so much. It's another timeless classic like Mean Girls, but instead of being a satirical comedy, this one is more of a character journey. And the story is based on Jane Austen's Emma, so you know it's... But in my opinion, the modern elements actually add to the charm of the original concept. So the main character Cher is a rich Beverly Hills girl, and despite being underestimated and stereotyped by everybody around her, she matures to defy those expectations. I think that the theme of Clueless is that what's at the heart of a person is the most important. For example, you take Cher, right? She fits into the stereotype of the spoiled rich girl, but on the inside she actually has a heart of gold. And another example is Travis. You know, he comes off as this sleazy skater dude, but actually he's a super sweet and caring guy. And only when the characters have kind of let go of their pretenses by the end of the film do they finally find happiness. Overall, I'd give Clueless a 9 out of 10. After extensive calculation, it looks like Clueless comes out to an 8 out of 10.
You see us as you want to see us. In the simplest terms, with the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each one of us is a brain, and an athlete,
and a basket case, a princess,
and a criminal. Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club! So I'll admit, I've actually only seen this movie once, so not nearly as many times compared to every other movie on this list, but I feel like it is one of those movies that only require you to watch it once because it sticks with you for a really long time after you've seen it. I think that the scenario for the character interactions in this movie is brilliant. It's genius. Take 5 completely different people who all misjudge others and themselves and put them in a situation where they have to collide with each other until they realize that they're not all that different. And each character comes with their own unique set of circumstances, which gives them a lot of depth despite the fact that we only get to see a little glimpse of them. And you know, there's no plot in this movie. It's kind of purely focused on character development, but this development takes place so naturally. The movie never tries to preach anything. It just kind of shows you the little incremental changes in perspective along the way. At the end of the movie, nobody's life is flipped around. There's no eureka moment. It's all very subtle and realistic, and that's why I think that The Breakfast Club is a masterpiece. So I'd rate it a 10 out of 10. And the average rating for The Breakfast Club works out to an 8.7 out of 10.
Because isn't it the first cardinal rule of perm maintenance that you're forbidden to wet your hair for at least 24 hours after getting a perm, at the risk of deactivating the ammonium thioglycolate?
Yes.
And wouldn't somebody who's had, say, 30 perms before in their life be well aware of this rule? And if, in fact, you weren't washing your hair, as I suspect you weren't because your curls are still intact, wouldn't you have heard the gunshot?
Legally Blonde. Now, I know I sound like a broken record, but yes, I do rewatch this at least once a year, sometimes even twice. And the main character of this movie, Elle, is such a charming and relatable character in the sense that a lot of young people have also experienced what it's like not to be taken seriously. And this movie is similar to Clueless in the sense that it's also a character journey, but in this case, Elle already knows who she is. You know, she's a smart cookie, capable, hardworking, but also she loves the color pink, she loves girly things, and she likes to have fun. However, because of how she is perceived, Elle has to work extra hard just to prove herself. This movie is actually pretty feminist if you think about it, because it shows how girly things are often considered frivolous, even though they have nothing to do with the worth of a person. And the friendship that blossoms between Vivian and Elle kind of represents that whole Jackie versus Marilyn debate, even though, and this is a shocker, women are a lot more complex than that. Who would have thunk? Legally Blonde explores themes of knowing your worth, staying true to who you are, and not letting yourself be boxed in. Overall, I'd rate Legally Blonde 8.5 out of 10. And it looks like the audience score for Legally Blonde works out to 8.7 out of 10.
Miranda insists upon seeing all the designers' collections before they show them.
And she tells them what she thinks?
In her way. There's a scale. 1 nod is good, 2 nods is very good. There's only been 1 actual smile on record, and that was Tom Ford in 2001. If she doesn't like it, she shakes her head. And of course, there's the pursing of the lips.
The Devil Wears Prada. Okay, I know this is stretching it a bit for a teen movie because it has absolutely nothing to do with teenagers or high school. It's set in New York, and half the movie is just Meryl Streep spanking Anne Hathaway with one of her many Oscars. But I would say that this movie touches upon the same topics as many other teen movies, except instead of about being the new girl at school, this is about being the new girl at work. Our main character, Andy, starts off as a woman who couldn't care less about appearances and is pretty dismissive of anybody who does, but then she gets thrown into a high-pressure job in an industry that she just can't bring herself to respect. The Devil Wears Prada touches upon the more adult themes of choosing between personal happiness and your career ambitions, and how often it's very difficult to maintain both and requires you to make some sacrifices. After losing her boyfriend, her friends, and her sanity, Andy finally chooses to leave Miranda's side to find her own path. And at the end of the film, we're never shown whether this was the correct choice or not. I think that's the right way to portray some of these difficult life decisions. Overall, I'd rate The Devil Wears Prada a solid 8 out of 10. From your audience score, The Devil Wears Prada gets a 9.1 out of 10. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, dislike if you didn't, and subscribe to the Cuteness Code for more critical film analysis. Toodles!